Okay, so um, there was a video on, and apparently the person offended me, and said I was trying to argue a point, and um, I just replied back and said that I don't think it's an argument. I think we debate on the Bible, and the problem is people want to be right or wrong. Um, it's a debate. It's Science can never prove anything right or wrong. Science only gives you a direction, and it depends. The majority of scientists, not people, scientists, real scientists. So if you study an area in science of biology, if most biologists agree on a theory that is written and no one can prove it wrong, it doesn't mean that their theory is right. It just means no one has the ability to prove it wrong. Um, and but it's things we can't see. Uh, there's some things you can't see an atom. So how can you prove it's right? You can make assumptions which lead you to facts in a certain lineage of thinking or way of thinking or down a track of thinking. But there's problems with that because then the other side has to come with their side. Now, why this has to happen is this is called debate. Because when God created man, as in Adam, a fully functional man, he calls him man. He doesn't call him anything else. He calls him man because he is the perfect man. Now, when we look at what God is saying, what we're looking at is the genitalia. So, in other words, he has the male genitalia. So, no one has seen a perfect Son of God and what he looks like. The angels that have fallen are known as sons of God. They corrupt sons of God, but they were created by God. Adam was created by God. Eve wasn't created, she was extracted. It says God put his hand in his side. Abraham gives us a thing into that. It's actually, he split the chromosome. Adam was perfect in both male and female, not in genitalia, in the way his mind works. In other words, God's perfection has got nothing to do with sexual orientation. Everyone goes on about gays being wrong and gays being this and this one and transgenderism and things like that. There is no such thing. When God speaks about a woman and a man, it's because he separated Adam into two. That's why your Hebrew, when you get your Hebrew word Elohim, and it means more than one. Elohim is a word, a plural. So it's something that's more than one. But in Hebrew, it's not more than one. It's three or more. So Hebrew starts with three. Why? Because Jesus says he sees two people as one. Now, everyone thinks, okay, so when a man and woman get married, God sees them as one. That is right. But they become three. Why? Because of the Holy Spirit. They accept Jesus and become that single person. What do they become? One with Jesus Christ. Who's the third one? The Holy Spirit. The church is not the bride of the Father. Israel is a different story because that's the man that transgressed. The woman sinned, Peter tells us. But anyway, let's just look at Genesis 1 because I just wanted to state something clearly. So, Genesis 1, verse 1 through all the way to the end, to 31. All right? And then the start of Genesis, let's see. All right. So, to Genesis 2, verse 2. So, here we have what everyone believes is a 7-day week. It's not. It has never been a 7-day week. It will never be a 7-day week. When the Bible was written, it was written in a calendar of 360 days. The amount of days in a year were the exact amount that could be divided into 12. And things like that. So it was 360 days. In 701 BC, calendars change from 360 to 365. Now, if you understand science, then you will know that Hiroshima did not move the Earth by 5 degrees or 1 degree. Because for the Earth to gain 5 days, it has to tilt more. Something, a force greater than Hiroshima, has to push it so that it gains 5 days. So it's got to be such a powerful explosion, something we've never imagined. It would be an explosion from outer space that would cause something like this, but it had to be close to the Earth. But anyway, let's forget about that now for the moment. It's a line you can go and study. The whole of Genesis 1 makes perfect sense to the scientific mind. It works out scientifically. It works out mathematically because mathematics and science go together. It has to have, you have to be able to prove what you mathematically think, like the weight of an atom. You have to work out the mathematical sequence of it. So mathematics and science make perfect sense in Genesis 1. The logical person, or the person without the math and science, struggles to explain this. Unless you don't even have to do an in-depth study. You just got to understand what the Hebrew says and look at the words to understand what is happening. So we'll start with the first verse. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. So in beginning, okay, that doesn't appear in the Hebrew. It's actually at that point or at that moment, at that specific time. What is happening? God started time. So God is in eternity, but he starts time. And in time, everything exists in the realm of eternity. But in time, God creates a heaven. So there's 3 heavens, as we know from the Bible. But he creates a heaven, which we know as the solar system, or as our solar system, or whatever. And the earth. Scientifically, what he's doing is he's creating dimensions. So he's got time, he's got matter, and he's got space. So if he doesn't, they have to be created at exactly the same time. Exactly the same point in time. All these things have to be created in the span of time. Exactly at the same moment. Why? Because if you have space and you have matter, when will you put it there? But if you have time and you have space, what will you put there? And if you have time and you have matter, where are you going to put it? So all three questions have to be answered exactly at the same time. That's how God moves. Exactly. He creates time, matter, and space. He puts matter into space and he starts a clock. If you go and look at matter, what does matter consist of? It's a solid. So there's ice, water, and gas. So it's solid, liquid, and gas. Time. Time as um, hours, seconds, minutes. It has weeks, days, months. It has years, centuries. You can carry on in threes. It's a continuation, a continuation of threes in time. So mathematically, you can go work out the continuation of threes in time, and you can put them together, and that's why certain elements will mix together, and these things will mix. Scientists understand this. The periodic table is full of this. And this is the funny thing because everyone puts between Genesis 1 and 2 a gap year, and they say that's why we can say the earth is billions of years old. The earth isn't billions of years old, it's about 9,000 years old. All right, there's a lot of faults in the equations. And because scientists say, no, that's what makes it billions, and there's this thing, and half the church believes this and half the church believes that. It's a time spans within time. So it has a time limit. All right. So we can go and look at that. Now, I don't know, and I haven't met someone that said to me, all right, it's this. It could be a 50-year period, could be a 5-year period, could be a 30-day period. There isn't an exact thing around this. But the earth was without form. So if we study this word form and void um, in the Hebrew, you look at the Hebrew words and you link them into the Bible. God says, I think it's in Jeremiah, he says, He did not create the world to be void and without form. So something has happened. Now we will see with that something happening, we will see what happens after that. There's a 6-day period that God uses to change that. There's basically 6 layers that he changes, and these layers consist of 3 or whatever, and they have dimensions with themselves. Right? But anyway, so the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the faces of the water. That Spirit of God moved on the face of the water is Jesus walking on the water when Peter sees him and cries out. Peter, any Jew from the age they go to school to the age they leave school have to recite the Torah. Peter would have known this verse. When he saw Jesus on the water, he got a revelation of Genesis 1 verse 2. That verse, those words there, and the Spirit of God was walking upon the face of the waters. Jesus, the moved upon. It's vibrate. He vibrated over the waters. All right, so that's Jesus vibrating over the waters. That becomes very relevant in the flood of Noah because what is under the water? Sin. People that sinned, that didn't accept God's uh, um, gift or to move on to the ark or whatever, the ark would have taken to a place of safety. They were drowned under the water. So the Spirit of God is hovering above the water. So this is a judgment. It's the same thing as a Noah thing where the ark was built. But this is a different type. You must understand this void and darkness affects the spiritual, because it has a spiritual connotation when it speaks about darkness. Um, Because everything exists in God in eternity. Like hydrogen exists in God's kingdom. Everything in eternity we see is been put into time. God gets from his kingdom. So to be able to form water and things like that, hydrogen must exist, oxygen must exist. He's taking those things and he's putting them together. So, but God is the master scientist, so he knows how to put things together. So this earth without form and void and darkness, that is because Satan cannot create anything. He is void and null, and he is in darkness. He doesn't even have light, because light is God's eternal kingdom. Um, he doesn't even have light. So Satan cannot create anything. He can lie. He's a manipulator because he lived in the kingdom. He was an angel that looked, he was one of the main angels that looked after the word on the mountain of God. And he would know how God works. He would have experience in that. But that experience doesn't make him a creator. All it does, it gives him knowledge of how God does things. So when he cannot make a space for himself, the angels that are with him as well, they can't see each other. They don't know. They aren't able to create anything. In God's realm, everything exists, but in this realm, nothing exists. People think they're going to go to hell and see their friends there. It's a very lonely place, my friend. Very lonely. You're going to be that. You will not be able to create anything. You will not be able to get rid of your sin or your pain or whatever. That is an eternal void and darkness. Actually spoken about in Revelations, where it says darkness will fall upon the earth. Why? Because God has pulled his light back. Why? Where men will bite their tongues to see if they are alive. This darkness he's speaking about in Revelations. So the Holy Spirit is on the face of the waters. The funny thing is, this also has a reference to me and you because we are born out of water. Your mother's water breaks when you're born. And the Holy Spirit hovers over that water. The third verse, and God said, let there be light. So there's darkness on this earth, but God comes to redeem it, because in it's Jeremiah that he says, and he comes down, smoke coming out of his nostrils, shooting arrows at the darkness, and he uncovers the foundation of the earth. So why would he uncover them? Because this has to be after he created. Because to uncover something, it has to be created. So this period in the Jeremiah, and when you start reading Ezekiel and stuff like this, and you get all these references to darkness and how God and the earth and the book of Job and things like that, and you put them together, you start seeing a picture of what is happening. There was a judgment, and God has come because darkness has fallen on what he's creating, and God comes and he uncovers it, and the earth once again appears. But it doesn't appear, it's still in darkness. But what does God do? He doesn't get rid of the darkness, because if he had to get rid of the darkness, that answers the question about why doesn't God get rid of pain and sickness in our lives? Why doesn't he just come down and do this? He doesn't get rid of darkness, he puts his light in the midst of it. Because if he had to get rid of darkness, he'd have to get rid of me and you. Because we're born in darkness. We're born in sin. Because you're born again Christian doesn't mean that you don't have darkness or sin in you. Doesn't make you the perfect person. You're taking what is spiritual and you're trying to say, this is how my flesh is. Look how perfect I am. That's what the world's screaming about. Because not one man is without sin. Jesus tells us that. He puts his light in the midst of your darkness. Now, that light there, because everyone will tell you that light was created twice. Ask the scientists. Go back to science and find out how light is created. Light is the basic effect of light is there's an atom spinning around a nucleus. If you heat it up to 18,000 degrees Celsius, what will happen is that atom will spin out of its orbit for a split second, and when it does that, out of the nucleus, a photon of light is released. That is called a reaction. The sun does not give us light. The sun is an 18,000 degree burning. It's actually electrical field because the sun is actually ice cold in its core. And what we see in it's a static electricity. If you put your hand on those balls and the electricity jumps towards your hand like that, that's what the sun is. It's not a burning flame of whatever. We just seen a very high intensity ball of static electricity that is sending heat down at exactly 18,000 degrees Celsius to cause atoms to spin out of their orbit so light can be created. That is called a process. God says, I wish they didn't have my light, that my light was the only thing that would be needed. But he has to put a sun there to cause the process he's creating in Genesis 3 to be able to take place. The sun is just a 18,000 degree ball to create this. So God doesn't create light twice. There's and he said he saw the light was good. He didn't say the darkness was good. He said the light was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. So what he's doing is he's still keeping us in the picture. He's allowing you to live in your darkness, but he's putting light in the midst of it, and he's saying, you can choose my light, or you can choose my darkness. One day when you get to eternity, either you will be in Genesis 2, where you are null and void and full of darkness, or you will be in my kingdom of light. You have the choice for eternity where you spend it. Jesus says, if you accept me here on earth, I will present you to my Father, but if you reject me here, you go to darkness. That's what that is about. You will be null and void and without form. So he calls this the light day, and the darkness is called night, and in the morning. Now, very important here, and the evening and the morning were the first day. What is evening in the Hebrew? So it's a very interesting word. It actually means things which are not discernible, because you can't see them. They're not discernible by the eyes. And the morning, which things start coming into picture, things start becoming discernible. This is not a day. You know what scientifically that means? He's taking chaos and he's creating order. Things which you cannot see, he's putting in place so that you can see them. Basically, what that verse means in the scientific thing. He took chaos and he created order. And he said, man, that's the job I done for the first day. Nothing to do with 7 days in a week. The first day that God in time started doing things. Anyway. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and he divided the waters from the waters. God made the firmament and divided the waters which are under the firmament from the waters which are above the firmament. And it was so in the firmament called heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. This firmament is where he's separating. Lots of people say water. If you actually study the word, you'll find that there's a fourth state of matter. We know about three in normal school science, and as normal human beings, we know about a solid, a liquid, and a gas. There's a fourth one, and it's a plasmatic. You know when someone is he's plasmatic drunk. His body doesn't know what's happening. He can't function properly. Everything's like going. He wants to go that way, but his body goes that way. You're plasmatic. You out of control. This is actually a state where the atom doesn't know who its nucleus is. It's the same state as he's speaking about in Genesis 1 verse 2. It's a place where the atom, it's a fourth state of matter. Scientists found it out in the 18th century. So, and then God says, let the waters and the heavens be gathered together unto one place, and the dry land appear, and it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together the waters called sea. God saw that it was good, and God said, let the earth breathe forth. Right. Um, in the second day, there's something very important. He doesn't say it was good. And it was so, and God called the firmament heaven, and then he does the waters and the heaven be gathered together in one place, let dry. Now the models of the earth during that time, because um, it's you've got to go and scientifically learn what the models are and why they say that, but they believe there was a ice dome around the earth that kept the temperature at exactly the right and whatever, and that's what broke, or water or whatever, and that's what broke when the flood took place, because waters came from above and waters came from underneath. The people in Noah's time did not know what rain was, never seen rain. There's a fine mist on the earth, but they'd never seen rain. So uh, these waters were gathered in one place. They never fell on earth. All right, and God called the dry land earth, and again into the water called sea, and God saw that it was good. Yeah, he says it was good. And God said, let the earth bring forth the earth, and he'll see fruits of the kind of seed, and it was so. And the earth brought forth grass and herb in it, and God saw that it was good. Now you'll notice how he says it was good. So in um, for grass and the evening and the morning. So he's taken all these things, all right, and this, when it was evening, he took what was in chaos and he made it into order. And that's what he done. He says, and this was the third day what I done. The third thing, the third complement of the scientific field that I done, because he gathered earth and he put water on it, and it was good. And then he brought forth grass and herb, yielding seed, fruit, yielding of his kind of seeds in himself upon the earth, and it was so. So he's creating all the grass and that. Why animals have to eat. Grass, herb, yield seed. Okay, in the evening of the third day, God said, let there be lights in the firmament. Yeah, that is a very all right, yeah. Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be signs for seasons and for days and years. That is very important. You can go and study why these are for signs and seasons, for days and years. It's timetable of God. Lights in the firmament and then nickel and light, and it was so. God made two great lights, greater light to rule and the lesser rule. He made the stars also, and God set them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon earth. So this is where what does grass need? What do seeds need? They need light and heat and all these different types of things. All right. So he's created on the third day. He created this and this, and then he created the heavens and everything and the light to be able to heat up grass and stuff like that, and to rule over the day and night and divide. Grass wakes up at night. There's a certain pheromone or hormone, whatever you want to call it, that when the sun is about to come out, that it allows the plant to live again. It dies, it lives. It dies, it lives, basically. And God said, let the waters be for the moving creature that have life, and fowl may fly above the earth in the open firmament. So it's creating birds and um, that have life, water, fish and stuff like that. So everything is there. Why does he create birds? It's very interesting. Um, birds, there was a guy in the 1800s, and he was watching his plants, and he realized birds wake up just before the sun comes up. And he used to have these plants in like little bowls or whatever, and he'd watch him, and when the birds start singing, these plants start moving. It actually comes to the fact that birds have a frequency when they sing, and they cause that pheromone or hormone or whatever to awaken the plant. It's frequency. That's why I don't believe in like wind things that they make for alternate sources of electricity and things like that. Because if you hear how those things turn, they send out a frequency. And if you're in an area where that frequency, that bird is attracted by that frequency, you'll fly straight into it. It's the same with whales beaching and things like that. They got things in the sea that make noises. They send out frequencies under the water, and that messes up the frequencies of animals and things in that. And we think we're being great. We're trying to save the planet. Well, we're going to kill it. But the nice thing about it is God holds the world in his hands. He's the one that's going to destroy it, not me and you. God created wells, every living creature that moved, water both, and with the being of the found God saw that it was good. And the evening and morning said took on the fourth day he had taken whatever that day was, he had taken from chaos and he put it in order, and then he made all these moving things, live, fell, and all these things, and it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful, multiply." So the chicken and the egg here is answered. The chicken came first, because God created the flying things and the animals, and then he said, "Be multiply." So the egg comes afterwards. And God blessed him, saying, "Be fruitful, multiply, and fill in the earth." And so he had taken all the animals that he created and everything, that how they worked, how they reproduced and everything. And on the fifth day, he had taken it from chaos and he'd put it in order. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth a living creature of his kind, cattle, creeping thing, and beasts of the earth after his kind." It was so. And God made the beasts of the earth with his kind. You see, all these things have to feed off those things. You can look at the chain of events. Makes perfect sense. So creeping thing creepeth, so God created man in it. So so God created man in his own image. This verse here gets everyone. Because he created man in his own image. This is before Eve was around. Before he separated Adam. Before he separated the X and the Y. We think of genitals. God doesn't. His DNA, chromosomes, left and right brain. The left and right brain person. You listen to these guys who are clever, they'll tell you a woman thinks with this side and a man thinks with that side. The temple and the church. The temple transgressed, the church sinned. And God said, "Behold, I've given you every herb bearing." Okay, so he creates man, sin for meat, and to beast the earth and the fowl with life good. So he says to man, "Listen here, uh, this is for you, it's for your kingdom. Everything, yeah, I've taken from chaos, I put in order, took that. Every day I've taken that section of scientific fact, taken from chaos and put in order. It's all for you so that you can have order in your life." And God saw everything that he made, molded, was very good. And the evening and morning of the sixth day. So on the sixth day, the thing had been produced that man was able to eat. Man would be able to be sufficient. God had taken everything, and on the sixth day he took man, and he took whatever was in chaos, and he put it in order and then he created man. So now he creates this man. This man is in his image. He's known as the Son of God. I'm not. The only reason why I become a son of God is because of the second Adam seed. But everyone that is born of Adam is a man of Adam. Every Adam was created by God. God didn't have sex to get Adam. He created him with his hands, he tells you. He didn't create me with my hands. He created me in Adam. But I come from Adam's seed. And what is Adam's seed? Well, we know what Adam's seed is. Adam's seed is null and void and full of darkness. Because that's how we're born. And that's why God doesn't get rid of it, because he knows what's coming. He knows we're going to be in darkness. If he had to get rid of that darkness, he just put his light there, we would not matter. But he didn't. He loved us so much. And that is the sixth day. So all these things he brought into order. Six, six things, 6 days, 6 days he had brought every little thing into order. And if you scientifically follow all those things, you'll find out how fantastic it is because it's everything it exists around us, for us. Now, he says here in Genesis 2:1, that's the heavens and the earth were finished. It was finished now. Man had the perfect kingdom. Each day he took that things and he put them in order, put them out. And but he never created the seventh day. What is he telling us? He never created the other 6 days either. It's a 6 day God working. It's a pattern. The seventh day rests. But he never created it. There was no evening and morning here. There was nothing in chaos here. There's nothing to be put in order. This is a day that exists. Where do we find this day? It's in Jesus. When he comes, he says, I am your Sabbath. I am your rest. All these other things that are in chaos. Because when Adam sins, what happens? It goes from order to chaos. How do we know that? Clean your room today. Wait 2 weeks and see what happens. You've got to clean it again. The pattern of the earth, because of sin, goes from order to chaos. I create order, but chaos comes from it. In other words, as a man, I cannot do any one of those things. I do not fall into the image of God. I am not a son of God. But in the seventh day, because of what Jesus Christ done, as soon as he done it, he said, I am your Sabbath. I am your rest. I am this day. You do not have to bring anything into order. It is in order. Because what then do you become? God tells us, then you become a son of God. So people that want to say the Sabbath is on a Sunday or the Sabbath is on a Saturday, I have no problem with that. The problem is the Jews had a 360-day calendar, and in the year 701, if you go and look at the history, you'll see all calendars change from 360 to 365, and whatever day you want to put it on. I'll show you something quickly. Jews get married on a Wednesday because it's the day of double blessing, because of that verse 1, verse 8. So all this, the first evening, light from darkness. Okay, so he says that was good once he had finished. This firmament here, there's no good in it. God didn't see it was good. He says after everything, he says, and saw that it was good. Where he doesn't say it here. All right? And he says the second day, there's no good here. So that there is no good. There's something there that's happening. And scientifically, you can go find out what a firmament is. It's the fourth state of matter. So there's no good here. So that's why they see that as a Tuesday. That's why they get married on a Wednesday. Jesus is at the wedding in Canaan on a Wednesday. Because the third day, the Wednesday, is the day of the double blessing. And on the second day, yes, and got dry land together, and it was good. on the earth, and it was on the earth, and it was good. Yeah, in Genesis 1 to 10, he says it was good, and he carries on, and in 12 he says that it was good. So both those things are good. So that's what they call the day of the double blessing. Um, that's also, you can go and see why that is good. But anyway, so that's why to me the Sabbath is not a day. So whatever you want to, because what you're telling me is you can sin every day except the Sabbath day, because every other day is in chaos now because of Adam's sin. It's not perfect, because if it was perfect, then when I tidy my room, it'll stay in order. But we come from sin. We as humans are sinful. We made not to succeed. We made to die. We made to digress. We made to go backwards. We made to go from something that's very fruitful, that something that becomes frail and thing. We are created that way because of sin. Sin brought in death. So when Jesus says no man here can say he has no sin, let me tell you, you are going from order to chaos. The thing is Jesus Christ your peace? That is the biggest question. Have you accepted his light in the midst of your darkness? Because you don't have to worry about the other things. He created them for you to eat. Whether it be meat or grass or whatever. He created it for you. But we went into sin, and therefore it became chaotic. The only way we can live in a chaotic world is by accepting the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ, because then we are known as sons of God. God gives us an inheritance as his sons. And the other thing is, you do not take over Israel. The church never takes over the place of the Jew. And if you want to explain me, let me sit for another 2 hours and explain to you why. But then you got to listen. But we do not take over. Because if you think the church has done a better job than the Jews or the Hebrews, well, my boy, then you think you're greater than, and you have no sin. Because the Father has a bride, and the Son has a bride. And be careful where you position yourself. Because if you position yourself under the law, you will be judged by that. But Jesus Christ gave us freedom, and he writes that law on our hearts. You know, it says in Deuteronomy that when a king sits on his throne, he must write law. You know, God done that when he sat on his throne, the Father, he done that for Israel. He wrote, Moses went up the mountain, he wrote with his finger the law while he was sitting on the mountain of God, his throne. He wrote the law on 2 tablets of stone. Jesus comes, he dies, he destroys this temple. He destroys the temple. He says, I will rebuild it in 3 days. And he writes the law on my heart, the stone tablets of him, the king. And that's what he's busy doing. He's sitting on his throne, writing the law on my heart. He's the King of Kings. And that's what he writes on my heart. Nothing to do with the Sabbath. Why people try and make the Sabbath day, which week, which year, which month, which whatever, so important, and they miss the whole message of Genesis, is beyond me. So there's your debate starting.